Good evening and welcome to the Earth's Final Warning radio broadcast. I'm your host, Brian Delory, and I thank you all for tuning in tonight. And tonight is going to be part 2 of the message on the 7 seals. And this portion of the teaching is entitled The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, because tonight I'm going to basically be dealing with just the first 4 seals out of the 7 seals in the book of Revelation, chapter 6. And what I want to tell you, I'm going to have to move along quickly here tonight because I'm starting a new YouTube channel. And at the present time, I don't have it set up to do videos longer than 15 minutes. So if I do this program, if I run over the 15 minutes, what happens is then it divides the program up into 2 parts, and I really don't want that to happen. Now, if it happens, it happens, because I have a lot of material to cover here tonight. Last night, as you remember, those of you who have, I didn't have any live listeners last night, but I've had a few listeners to the broadcast, to the recorded broadcast. They listen by way of download. And I was talking about the 7 seals and what inspired me to do this teaching, and it was the fact that there is so much erroneous teaching that is circulating around on the internet. It really makes me mad. Let's just be frank about it. I mean, because there's just so much material out there, and I just imagine myself as a new convert, trying to ascertain which is true and which is false. Now, obviously, if you're a new convert, you should be going to church. You should have a pastor, and you can consult with him about these things. But if you're trying to do a Bible study on your own at 1 o'clock in the morning, that's a little difficult to do. What's available on the internet is really all you have to go by if you haven't if you haven't been exposed to this teaching on the 7 seals. So we're going to get into the message now. Excuse me, I'm surrounded by my cats and cat hair, and therefore it affects my throat. Okay. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are described in Revelation chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. And these are the, they're not named. It's only one of the horsemen that's named. And by the way, many people ask me, why horsemen? Why are there horsemen used? And I believe that's just to denote the swiftness with which these riders begin operating during the tribulation period. Remember, what's happening here with the 7 seals is that God's wrath is beginning to be poured out on all of the unbelievers who have been left behind. They didn't make it in the rapture of the church because they were unbelievers, obviously, so they were left behind here to face the hell that's going to come upon this planet after the church is removed. Now, I know that's somewhat of an antiquated notion these days, but there will be a rapture of the church. You can assure yourselves of that. I don't have time to go into that tonight, but it is a accurate teaching, the rapture of the church. Okay, so the first horseman, it says, I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. So most Bible scholars believe that this horseman is the Antichrist. I believe that. But however, there are those who hold to a different view. And there are many able scholars on both sides of the issue. But I believe that it is the Antichrist for one reason. And the reason is that, again, this is God's wrath being poured out upon the earth. All of these horsemen inflict damage upon the planet Earth. And so it makes sense that this would more than likely refer to the Antichrist. Remember, the Antichrist is trying to emulate the Lord Jesus Christ. And so Jesus returns to the earth on a white horse, and therefore the Antichrist, when he's released in the tribulation period, in the beginning of the tribulation period, goes out on a white horse. Another reason I believe this is most likely the Antichrist is because it says he's going forth to conquer. And Jesus has already conquered. He's in heaven waiting for his enemies to be made his footstool. So it doesn't make much sense to say that this is Jesus being released on the earth when clearly these 4 seals are releasing the wrath of God upon the earth. Are you saying that Jesus is the wrath of God? I mean, yes, Jesus will execute wrath upon the unbelievers at his return at the end of the 7-year tribulation period. But until that time, he's still in heaven with his church. So the teaching that this is someone other than the Antichrist, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many scholars, is a false view. It's not. It's just doesn't make sense. It's an untenable position, if you will. Okay, all right. So the second rider that comes on the scene after the second seal is released is the second horseman, and he's a fiery red horse, and he was given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other, and to him was given a large sword. And I believe the second horseman refers to the terrible warfare that is going to break out during the time of the tribulation period. And when it says that he is given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other, I believe what's referred to there is not only murder but war as well. I mean, people really don't have any real conception of the spiritual atmosphere. They don't have any real conception of what the spiritual atmosphere of this planet will be like once the church is taken out of here. Because the restrainer of all these things is the Holy Spirit through the church. And once we're out of here, that restraining force is pulled back. And this allows for all these things to happen. And of course, God is in control of the whole thing. So, this is a time of God's wrath. And so these things that are happening are, horrible things. But this is sinful man being held accountable for his rejection of God. Okay. The third horse, it was a black horse, and he's holding a pair of scales in his hand, and then there's a voice that comes from among the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine." And apparently, as a result of the second horse, or you could say there's a result of the first 2 horses, there is going to be a famine on the earth, and there's going to be very high inflation, and so it's going to cost a lot of money to buy very little food, and so that's what's being described here. And again, most likely it's a result of the wars and the things that are taking place on the earth during the time of the tribulation period. And then there is the fourth and last horse, and he's pale. Now, this is the only horse that is named. The name of the horse is Death. And it says, "I looked, and before me was a pale horse, its rider named Death, and Hades, or Hell, was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth." Okay, so this horse is pale. If you look it up in the Greek, it's sort of a greenish pale color. It means, and it's a sort of a deathly. What's the word I'm looking for? But it's a deathly. It's a color that represents death. That most people when they die, they turn this sickly pale color. It's horrible, and I've seen it before. I've witnessed it personally. I was once working a job, and there was a guy walking down the street doing nothing, and two policemen encountered him, and the next thing you know, they beat him to death. And of course, I was the supervisor of security at that job, and I had to go out, and this guy was lying there dead, and it was very similar to the color described here. It was awful. And so I've seen this color before, and it says also, before I forget, that death follows close. I'm sorry, that Hades follows close behind him. This is referring, I believe, to hell itself. Now, there are those who would believe that it's referring to just a grave. I believe, due to the word Hades being used, which is the Greek word for hell, it's referring to these people that are left behind on the earth, that are being killed. They're all sinners, so that's where they're going. That's my personal opinion about the fourth horse, or the fourth horseman. And again, it's he's going to kill with famines and plagues, and with the wild beasts of the earth. So we've seen a little bit of this. I remember in recent years. I remember when I was a kid. You heard about a shark attack very just once in a great while, and until recently, I mean, there's shark attacks almost on a daily basis, particularly here in Florida. They're happening everywhere. Where there's an ocean, and it's almost hard to believe the increase of these attacks upon human beings by sharks. Now, a lot of that is due to the fact that people that they've lost their fear of people, because they've been fed, and they've become accustomed to people being close to them. And they don't know that they're killing you. They just think you're, something else to eat. They don't think of you as a human being, and they just see an object in the water. They say, "Oh, that looks good," and they attack you. So, and of course, all of these plagues that are going to come upon the earth, the different things, the judgments that are going to come upon the earth during the tribulation period, get progressively worse as the tribulation moves on. And so that's the message for tonight. That's who the four horsemen of the apocalypse are, and what they're going to do to the earth during the time of the tribulation period. Now, I believe that these horsemen ride throughout the tribulation period, but some believe it's just for the first half of the tribulation period. But whatever the case may be, they're going to do a lot of damage, and this is not a time that you would want to be on the earth. This is a time you want to be in heaven, and you can easily escape this judgment by accepting Christ and believing in Him and living for Him and obeying Him. And that's all I have to say for this evening. I hope this message has helped you, and if it has, please let me know. You can follow me at Facebook at Earth's Final Warning Radio, and you can follow me at my website, earthsfinalwarningradio.org. And I got to go, and until the next time, I leave you these